There are a whole bunch of new people who have found the channel and found my videos through the first Beetlejuice video that I did and put out, which made me realize that I kind of need to introduce myself again. And in thinking about introducing myself, I thought about the fact that I usually say that I work in commercial music theatre in Australia, and the fact that outside of the context of being a person who also works in commercial music theatre in Australia, that means literally nothing to you. So let me explain. My name is Monique. I am a radio mic technician that is a part of the sound team in musical theatre. For the last 4 years almost, I have been either a sound swing or a radio mic technician on commercial shows in Australia. At the moment, I am working on the Australian premiere of Beetlejuice. Because of the way that Australia is culturally and artistically around the arts, and also geographically, when shows come to Australia, it is usually either for a sit down in one city for a small period of time, a tour of the nation, or even sometimes it is a tour of both Australia and the countries that are close to Australia that are difficult for other companies in other parts of the world to get to. So that becomes an international tour, using usually cast and crew from Australia and other countries, but predominantly from Australia. We don't have a Broadway or the West End type setup in Australia. The closest that we have to that is in Melbourne. There is a district of the city that is quite heavily populated with theatres that often have these scale shows on. But doing Broadway style shows, Broadway budget shows, shows from Broadway, is commercial music theatre in Australia. And that is what I do. I wanted to talk to you today about the microphones on Beetlejuice, and kind of just microphones in general. I figured, why not do a yap about mics in general as well as talking about the show? And there were a lot of questions that I got about how the microphones work, what I'm doing to put them on, and the mics for this show in particular. So I thought that I would make kind of a longer video than just saying, this is how I put the two mics together to go on Beetlejuice. So that's what we're doing today. One of my favorite things about my position in particular is that I find it is actually quite creative. It is a technical role, but it is incredibly social. It is incredibly creative in certain ways as well, and that is really satisfying to do over the course of a long tour or a short show. If you're somebody who is technical but also considers yourself quite creative, this is still a very fulfilling role. There are a lot of specific ways that people want you to do things, or that things need to be done for the technical side of things, but that also in a creative sense, there are a lot of things that you have to figure out that are left completely to you to figure out. You have to get the correct position on a person, but other than that, what they look like, how they get there, depending on whether they're wearing wigs or their own natural hair, is often a choice that you have to make, which can be really fun. But it's also incredibly overwhelming if it's something that you haven't done before. Fortunately for me, in my experience, I was a swing on many shows under a lot of incredibly talented radio mic techs and sound people in general, who imparted a lot of wisdom onto me that I got to sponge up and use in my own shows. There is something that I find really wholesome and beautiful about the fact that the way that I do my job as a radio mic tech is really just an amalgamation of all of the skills and tricks that I've learnt from more experienced mic techs before me who took the time to teach me. I really wanted to make a video about the mics on Beetlejuice, first of all, because I cannot shut up about this show. I love the show, I love the company. It is one of the greatest experiences I've ever had working in this part of the industry so far. Also because for as long as I've had this channel, I've had people DM me or send me emails about their specific show and the mics that they are using and the complications that they are having. I think a lot of the I have this specific issue and how do I fix it questions are very much a case by case based on the show and the performer and the circumstances that you're in. But hopefully by sharing some of what I'm doing with mics and why on shows, that can give you some kind of help in the obstacles that you may come up against in your own shows. If you are someone in this position, hopefully this is helpful to you. This video is for you. This video is also for people who have an emotional attachment to knowing everything about their niche special interest. I hope that during Beetlejuice, when you are at interval, you can lean over to your friend and tell them some kind of insider information about the mics that you learned from this video. That's my favorite thing to do when I have a thing that I love, and I hope that I can give that to you as well. Like I said before, we could just discuss how I put two mics together and paint them, but why not go a little bit deeper than that? Today I'm going to discuss with you how our mics work on the show, from the packs to the racks to the console that they get mixed from, and how they are put onto performers as well. While I want to explain what's happening in an accurate way, I also still want this video to be understandable and digestible. I'm going to try and make things as simple and understandable as possible. If there is something that you would like to know a little bit more technically, a little bit deeper, or explained in a different way even, feel free to leave a comment or go to my Discord, which the link for is in the description below. I am always in the Discord, but there are also a whole bunch of other incredibly talented, intelligent people who are in the Discord as well, chatting about sound, chatting about tech at the same time as we are doing theatre brain rot la 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 chats as well, which is lots of fun. But let's start with the mics, the packs, and the racks. On Beetlejuice, we have most of the cast on a singular microphone that is positioned mid-forehead. Some people are on ear rigs, and as well as that, the lead cast, so Beetlejuice, Lydia, Barbara, Adam, Charles, Delia, are on 2 microphones, a main and a backup microphone. This is because these characters have a lot of important lines, a lot of solo songs, or because of the amount of time that they spend on stage and how difficult it would be to fix or swap out their mic if an issue was to happen. How many cast members are on a double main and backup rig is a sound designer choice. Some things that might influence that preference include input limitations or budget is a big one. The challenge for me in putting 2 microphones together is that they automatically become far more noticeable. On other shows that I've done, we have staggered the main and backup microphone into 2 separate positions because whatever is happening to the main microphone is likely happening to the backup as well if they're in the same spot and it is like a superficial external issue. But that's not always the preference of the sound designer, and on Beetlejuice we have both of the mics put together. For performers who use ear rigs though, that has taken a bit of work. Both single and the doubles, I've used these plastic ear frames, taped the mic to them, and then covered them with Helaman, which is this plastic cable sleeving. Sleeving? Is sleeving a word? Is sleeving a word? It's a word now. On the double rigs for the ears, I put a bit of wire along the 2 to help point them in the correct direction, and then I painted them. The doubles that aren't going over the ear and are just going on the forehead, all I've done is use 3 little slices of Helaman sleeve to keep them together. I did this partially because it is discreet, and I also did this because on Tina, I did a really solid, strenuous mic build for especially the Tina double, and I found that in times where one of them would die, the main or the backup, and I had to build a new rig and I wanted to continue using the mic that still worked, getting those separated and making a new rig took so much time that it was actually quite difficult to replace a lead rig if I needed to. With the way that I'm doing them on Beetlejuice, I can have a new mic ready in a very short amount of time. I have spares, I have other mics ready to go that can just be put onto people, but you never know what's going to happen, and it is best, in my opinion, to be prepared for the worst. One of my favorite parts of putting mics together for a show that is not necessarily essential depending on a lot of things, but that I consider an act of love, is painting them. This is by far the most demanding part of maintenance that I create for myself in a show. For people who aren't in wigs and who wear their mic in their natural hair, I paint their microphone to match their hair for where it is positioned so that it is less noticeable. Also for the ear rigs that I have built, I've done this for the person's beard because of where it sits on their face. The front of their microphone is still in the place of their beard. As well as for hair, I also paint the microphones to match people's skin tones. A lot of mics that are available to use for this purpose in this setting do come in a few different tones, but that is usually only a black, a brown, a beige, and a white. While they can be intended to be somewhat skin toned, there is no possible way that a company could ever make the amount of microphones that suit people's skin tones. Think of a foundation line and how huge those are, and they still don't cover everybody. It would not be practical ever for a sound company to make microphones that perfectly match people's skin tones. Also, people's skin tones change throughout a season, throughout a contract, depending on where you're touring, how much sun people are getting. There are some people whose skin tones change quite dramatically depending on the environment that they're in. Because of the fact that I'm trying to make the microphones as discreet as possible, and also because I think it is absolutely the bare minimum that if people are being offered skin-toned products that are meant to be flesh-toned and blend in with their skin, that they should be available to everybody, I paint the mics. Depending on the show that you're on, depending on how the show works, depending on how quickly you go through mics, depending on the way that you source the microphones, whether you're renting them or something like that, you may not be allowed to paint the microphones. But in a setting like this, where I do absolutely have that freedom, I take it. Something that does make this kind of difficult though, is that every microphone I've ever worked with in this capacity, Sennheiser, DPA, has at some point in the mic some kind of metallic part, whether it is the capsule, whether it is the entire grill, there is always some part of the microphone that is gold, bronze, silver, and shiny. I'm going to make a bold assumption that these microphones are used pretty often in this part of the industry. And I don't understand what the benefit would be in other industries where it isn't as important that the microphone blends in with their skin tone. I don't understand what the benefit would be in having those metallic, shiny parts to the mic. So Sennheiser, DPA, please, I beg of you, all I want for Christmas is that you make a microphone entirely the same color and preferably matte, not shiny. because that catches light and is also incredibly noticeable. Please, that's all I want for Christmas. To paint the microphones themselves, I've always used Copic markers. They're like a paint pen that you can get from Officeworks if you're in Australia, or you can get them online. If I need something that's a little bit more heavy duty or full coverage, I will use Angelus leather shoe paints. Yes, leather paint for shoes. You can get this online, or you can get them in Australia from like a Mr. Minute. After I finish painting them, I will do a top coat of matte, clear nail polish. Like I said about the shininess of the mics, this removes the shine from them, which catches on the lights on stage and helps to make it blend more with the performer. It also helps to keep the paint onto the mic. It is an extra layer of protection between the paint chipping off or also getting onto the performers. It is a way to help protect it from getting onto someone's face, onto their neck, onto their head, onto costumes as well. Do not make an enemy out of your wardrobe department by getting paint on their costumes. To figure out what shades of the paints that I have I'm going to be using on certain performers, I make up a little paint sheet where I write down the name of the paint and I do a little, what would you call it? A little sample? I paint a section of the page with the color that I'm going to be using, and I put the matte top coat over it so you can see what it's actually going to be as well on the mic. Or sometimes in the past, I have taken a spare microphone and I've painted like a centimeter chunk on those microphones with the color I'm hoping to use, and then I will hold that to the performer's hair to see what is going to work best. You could guess, you could take a gamble and you could guess, but there have been so many times that I have guessed and I've been wrong, or I've been really surprised when I've done the check in the first place, how wrong my assumption was over what someone's hair tone or skin tone was going to be. These microphones that the cast are wearing plug into transmitters. The transmitters that we are using on Beetlejuice are the Sennheiser SK6212s. Yes, which are my personal favorite of the transmitters that I've gotten to use in my time in the industry, because the batteries on them last anywhere between 12 and 14 hours, meaning that on a double show day, you don't have to swap batteries in between shows, which is just another thing that you don't have to worry about. The cast wear these little transmitters either on their body, on a mic belt, in their costume in some way, or they can also wear them underneath their wig in their wig prep. Someone noticed these little labels that I've made for the transmitters, and they relate to the settings on the pack and our work in preparing the mics to go onto performers. This little gain setting is a reference to a gain setting in the transmitter itself. The receivers also have gain settings that you can adjust. Our mics plug into one side of the transmitter and an antenna plugs into the other. You can get hard or soft antennas depending on the flexibility that you need. For example, if a pack is going under wig prep, I will use a soft antenna so that it can bend with the shape of the head without damaging the wig or breaking under the strain. These antennas are there because our mics work using radio frequencies. If you look in our programs and you look at crew, what you will see next to my name as a job title is the radio mic technician. You might hear my position being referred to also backstage or by people who also do the position as either a mic tech or a radio tech. The radio frequencies is why. You would be familiar with radio frequencies for broadcast reasons like TV and radio, but we also use them in sound as well. The transmitter and the receiver use a specific frequency to speak to each other, and then the receivers plug into the inputs in our system. Where that goes from there and how that gets to the console is something that I will cover in a later video with our head of sound. We're going to talk more about front of house and how that works, so stay tuned for that. If you have any questions about that, let me know. Before the mics go on to the performers, there are things that we do to protect the mics and the packs from the environment that they're in. One of the main things, depending on the kind of show that you are doing, that you are often protecting mics from is sweat. Performers are often doing a lot of physical work under many layers of costume in incredibly bright lights. It is not uncommon for people to become very sweaty on stage. To protect their packs from the sweat, we put them into latex pouches. You can use a bunch of different things. You can use gloves, you can use balloons, you can use unlubricated condoms, or these like probe covers made by the same company, which are designed to be used like a physical barrier. In our case, from sweat. We put them on in a way that covers the pack itself, the points of connection between the antenna and the mic. On the mic itself, we can spray water stop on it for an extra layer of protection, which is a waterproofing spray for leather shoes. I didn't think that I would be so familiar with shoe-related products from becoming a radio mic tech, but here we are. I got a bunch of questions on my last video about how we're putting mics onto performers, so let's go over some of the ways that we're putting mics onto people on Beetlejuice. Like I said, cast can wear their microphones in a belt on their body, in a part of their costume, or underneath their wig prep, and on Beetlejuice we use a mix of all three depending on the character. Putting their mics under their wig prep, we place them in pouches that the wardrobe department have made specifically for this purpose, and we pin that into their wig prep. The lace on the wig will hold their mic down into the position on their forehead, so that is usually all that we have to do for that. When the mic is on their body, we clip their mic into their own hair or pin it into their wig prep and secure both with tape. There are a lot of different sport and medical tapes that you can use on people for their mics. The ones we have on stock here at Beetlejuice are Lucafix, Lucaplast, Blenderm, Micropore, and Tegaderm. Lucaplast is more heavy duty, Lucafix is a pretty standard starting point for most people, and Tegaderm, Blenderm, and Micropore are great for more sensitive skin types. Tegaderm is my personal favorite because it is a medical grade tape and it also looks good on all skin tones. You can also use it to heal tattoos. We put tape onto performers to secure their mic position in place. It is incredibly important for the person mixing out the front that someone's mic position stays consistent show to show and throughout the show itself. When somebody begins to sweat, their microphone cable will catch onto their back or onto their neck and pull. There are also other reasons why it can get pulled or moved just from movement or the costume itself. So it is incredibly important for us, for sound, for the way that the performer sounds out the front to everyone in the audience, that their mic position stays in place, and that is why we use tape. When someone's wearing a wig, it does a great job at keeping the mic in a consistent position and close to the face, which makes it less noticeable. But what if it needs to be quite low and they aren't wearing a wig? You can use wire and attach that to the microphone in whatever method that you find and have available to you. But I was hesitant to do that on Beetlejuice because not only is it quite bulky and it adds just an extra layer of things on the microphone that you have to maintain, but it also isn't always that effective. While trying to figure out how I was going to achieve this, I was in our wham room talking to our incredible wigs, hair and makeup team about this issue that I was having when we were discussing who would be in wigs and who wouldn't be in wigs. And the incredible head of wham on Beetlejuice, Connie, recommended that I use wig lace and wig glue to help secure their microphone to their face. This method has changed my life, my microphone life. This method has been an absolute game changer. Thank you so much to the Beetlejuice wham team. To do this, I put down a little bit of glue on someone's forehead. I put on the rest of their mic while it's getting tacky, and then I place a tiny little cut up bit of wig lace down before adding more glue to the spots that I didn't get in the first place. This method has been incredible. The microphones do not move, they do not change position, they do not slip back, they do not move forward, they stay in position the entire show, and it is also quite subtle. It's not that noticeable, especially compared to what it could be if I used other methods. And that's a big old yap about our microphones on Beetlejuice. If you have any other questions, please let me know. Please comment down below. Please go and ask them on the Discord. If you're somebody who is keen on more videos about Beetlejuice, make sure you are subscribed to the channel because I will be making more videos going forward. The videos that I'm going to be making about Beetlejuice are both reflective of the lifestyle of working in the industry and on a show like this, and also on the technical side of how we are technically making this show work. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for all the love on the opening week vlog. If you haven't seen it, now is your time to go and watch it. Thank you for coming to see Beetlejuice. The absolute love that this show has been given and the way that it has been received by audiences in Melbourne so far has been so mind-blowing, and the energy of that really impacts us backstage and on stage. It has really helped in making our workplace a really, really wonderful place to be. So thank you. I gotta get ready and go to work now. So I'm gonna do that.